Morning, everyone. Morning, everybody. Happy are they still off school day? And welcome to the news agenda with me, Fleet Street Fox. And today I'm joined by the Mirror's Whitehall correspondent, Mikey Smith. Morning, Mikey.
Good morning.
We're going to take you through the best stories of the day. We want you to get into the comments, ask us your questions. We can't answer them all. We will answer the best ones, but dive in, get engaged. So what have we got today? Well, the Mirror has splashed on the fact that an official inquiry has just uncovered the truth that thousands of children were negligently exposed to child abuse of all different sorts in Lambeth over many years. Lambeth Council has apologised, which is nice, since the Mirror first exposed what was going on in the Shirley Oaks Children's Home in 2013, which is 8 years ago, if anyone's counting. And the Shirley Oaks Survivors Association was formed and began campaigning for justice in 2014. So what took those responsible so long? We will obviously have to wait and wonder. Perhaps it's the sense of responsibility. But there is another story we want to talk about today, further inside the paper, which is about the Mirror's campaign launched last month to get defibrillators into all public places. The little machines that clear, poof, will bring you back to life if your heart stops. Now, Mikey, take us through it. What's this all about?
So the Mirror's found out through a Freedom of Information request that on the parliamentary estate, which includes the House of Commons, House of Lords, and a bunch of office buildings in Westminster, there are 100,000. Sorry, no, that's not right. There are 25 defibrillator machines currently in operation. Now that's, I believe, 7 more than there were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and while it's true that there are quite a lot of people working in the Houses of Parliament and in the surrounding office buildings, it's a lot more than there are. It's a lot more machines than there are in the rest of the country. There are something like 100,000, roughly. It's thought, in operation in the UK. About half of those are registered to Ambulance Trust and the British Heart Foundation. And yet, with Parliament says there's about 10,000 workers and visitors each day, and obviously 650 MPs and 792 Lords. It works out.
Some of them have got very dicky tickers.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, the average age in the House of Lords is quite old. Yeah. However,
I imagine Matt Hancock's beat a bit quick once or twice this year.
I'm not sure there's one in the Department of Health. We'd have to check. Next to the camera. But yeah, no, it works out. There's one defibrillator for every 58 members, apparently now, which is a lot more than there is in the rest of the country. And obviously, the Mirror's campaigning to change that balance a little bit.
It's 1 for 660 people in the rest of the country. 1 for 58 people in Parliament. So it's the idea of having life-saving equipment where it can actually save lives. Seems to be a bit of a no-brainer, really. These things are easy to use. They've got voice controls to tell people what to do. It's not like Holby City. It's really easy to use. And there's, an argument there should be one in every business, even in every home, maybe, or there's certainly a lot of homes. And compared to the rest, the cost of like NHS care for people, or rushing out, or ambulances, or anything else, it's comparatively cheap. What's the hold up? A few million, this problem's solved. Why haven't we just done it already?
I genuinely don't know the answer to that question. I imagine it's a cost outlay that has to go on someone's budget. And the current government is not always particularly happy with increasing the budget of things like health services.
No,
but there is.
Yet Parliament's budget's been increased to have 25 of the damn things knocking about.
That's true, but Parliament
their budgets.
Parliament operates as its own little weird thing. I mean, it's not the only time Parliament has had access to things the rest of the country has not. Let's put it that way. They obviously have subsidised food and drink, for example, bars at work, which the rest of the country don't get access to. There are certain privileges you enjoy by being a member or a member of staff as well in Parliament that the rest of the country doesn't get. Hopefully, there's a bill going through currently which would improve matters, and hopefully that will get backing.
Yeah. Now, Zoe says, I'm fully behind the defibrillator idea. Training needs to be made available so ordinary people feel confident to use them. I'm trained to use one as part of my pediatrics first aid training. I think as well, also, that we should all have to do more first aid courses, not just a little bit when we were at school or in the Girl Guides or whatever it was. I don't know if you were in the guides, Mikey. I was thrown out.
I was not. I was in Cubs for 2 weeks, and then I decided I didn't like the uniform and didn't like people shouting at me to do things, so I left.
I was asked to leave for expressing my opinion a little bit too forcefully, with Anglo-Saxon terminology. So in the article, I mean, I had a first aid a Red Cross first aid course when I was pregnant because I was a bit worried about. I live fairly rural area, long way from a hospital. If something goes wrong, blah, blah. And I think someone actually contacted me and said, do you want to come along? So I said, yes, of course. So I think that kind of thing, just being a bit more mandatory for people would probably be a good idea. Like Zoe says there, train to use a defibrillator, know where your nearest one is. I know where my nearest one is. It's in an old telephone box in the village car park a mile away. So by the time I've got the car out, been up there, managed to lever it off the wall if it hasn't been vandalized, get it back here. Whoever needed it would have carked it.
Yeah, imagine so.
So it's a bit dicky. If I had someone with a heart problem, I think I'd try to get one for the house. But who knows? Angela says, I've trained on a defib. You just follow the instructions. It's really easy. If they've got 25 of them in the House of Commons, it must be something that people can use fairly simply because they're not that bright. Some of them.
One slight sort of curveball in the 25 in the House of Commons thing is, you've been in the House of Commons, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's kind of a rabbit warren.
Yes.
So it's entirely possible that there are 25 of that. There are so many corridors and staircases, and it's like Hogwarts. You feel like the staircases move on their own, and you've no idea where you are at any given time. It's possible that that's why they have so many, is because
they just forgot where they put the last one.
Even though there's 25 of them, you still might have to walk a mile to get to one. That might be part of the reasoning behind it, but it's not a good reason for the rest of the country not to have the same access.
No, exactly. It is a bit bizarre. I can't believe they're even debating the thing. Just say, yes, it's that simple. It's only a few million and you get nice headlines off the Mirror. Come on, Boris. It's not.
Imagine that.
Yeah, now Mark King in that story is talking about his son Oliver, 12-year-old, who died during a swimming lesson because there wasn't a defibrillator handy. He's been campaigning to have these defibrillators put in public places, and he says it's particularly galling to find the MPs have actually increased theirs and they won't do the same for our schools. And that means spending money on children, Mark. Boris isn't really big on spending money on children, whether it's his or anybody else's. Now, we are going to move to a story that's closest to my heart at the moment. Sorry for that segue, but there we are. For the past few months, anyone who's followed me on Twitter will know that I've been wearing my writing cardigan and been sitting here sweating and perspiring over a big project. And it's a special investigation which is going live tomorrow into the state of Britain's broken broadband. There we go. It's called Reboot. Now, most of us noticed during the work from home order that our internet wasn't quite what it could be. There were families at each other's throats about who had the biggest need to use the bandwidth. There were 30 million adults, Mike, 10 million. Listen to this noises. We spent ages making the noises around this website. 30 million adults, 10 million children earning and learning from home with a system of the internet which is based and is still very like Victorian technology invented first to carry Morse code. It really hasn't changed very much. The fact that we can do something like this down those wires is amazing, and it's a tribute to the engineers at BT and other places who've managed to make it work. But the average broadband speed in the UK at the moment is about 60 meg per second. I'm doing this on 4.5, and I happen to know that some of the people who run our Mirror website working from home on 3, and that's in central London. What about you, Mikey? What kind of speed have you got? Where are you?
So I'm lucky enough to be on fiber optic. So I've got about 12.5 meg down.
That's not a fiber optic speed. That's not. It should be 200 or so.
Yeah, no, it's rubbish for fiber optic, but I think it's throttled at their end because I don't pay them enough. But yeah, no, I'm on a good cable. I'm not on copper.
Yes, no, it's the copper cables that were invented to carry Morse code. So Reboot starts off with the very invention of telecoms, right? Back in the early 1800s, a guy called Francis Ronalds, who was a cheesemonger, strung up some cables in his mum's back garden and managed to transmit a message down them using some wheels with letters on it. Fantastic bit of British innovation. He immediately took it to the British Admiralty and said, "This is great. You should use this. You should have this as it's got defence things. It's got special. It'd be amazing for the government to use this system of telecommunications. Do you want it?" And they said, "Nope." Because why would they want something that was brilliant and whizzy? Paul says there, "I get 34 meg with Sky, but they charge £1 a meg. I assume you're on a dish." Paul, where I am out here is I'm a mile from from the telephone junction box. And I had to go trekking and hiking across the countryside trying to find it as part of this investigation. Now, we also, we are well overloading our system. I don't know about you, Mikey, but, most of us, we use the internet, these copper cables to stream music, watch TV, ask Alexa to update our shopping list, see who's calling on our Ring doorbells and so on. But do you remember... So the system's getting well overloaded and there's not enough space on these copper wires to do all this now. And do you remember an episode of Only Fools and Horses in which Del Boy walks into the Nag's Head, right? He's all done up as a yuppie with his Mac and his big silver briefcase, and he's got 100 mobile phones to sell. And he goes, "Look at these. I've got these mobile phones, solid state of the art," he says, "and it's all to do with satellites or something." And he tries to flog one to everybody he meets. And nobody will buy them because they all go, "What's the point of that? There's a phone in the bar." And they can't grasp. And he's trying to sell them, right? They normally retail at 200 quid. And he's trying to sell them for 40. And no one wants it. It's amazing to have a mobile phone for £40.
Yeah.
But do you remember that episode?
Vaguely, yes.
Vaguely. Most people do. These people my age do. And the internet had been invented about a month after that episode was broadcast.
Wow.
And at the time, Britain had the capacity to make those specialised glass fibre optic cables that you're on there, which put us on the brink of a digital revolution, right? There we are. The internet's just about to boom. We've got fibre optic cables. BT had 2 factories churning them out. We had the know-how. We'd invented them. We knew how they worked. We could supply them to the rest of the world that suddenly would need fibre optic cable shortly. And somebody who shall remain nameless, because no spoilers, somebody switched it all off, Mikey. Somebody evil. And 30 years ago, and as a result, that's why I personally am on 4.5 meg per second because of this person. And I've just written a whole website about why I don't like it.
Something that bothers you, yeah?
It irritates me more. It's really started. Someone sent me a link to an old online. I love that GIF. An old piece online, and it got me investigating and thinking and figuring out how mine worked. And then I realized there is so much going on here because I've spoken to families in Cornwall, in Gainsborough, in Wales, all over the country about their internet speeds and how they're using it and the problems they had during lockdown and how they can fix it, and people that are doing well, community broadband projects that are trying to get fibre laid using government vouchers, the government promises that have been made and broken over the years. Spoken to parliamentarians, experts, telecommunications academics, it's my specialist subject for the current week. So there's the Facey family live in Mevagissey, and he's got that's his junction box. He managed to get his whole family around the junction box for me to take a photograph. It's the benefit of working from home. You can just send people out to take a picture for you. You haven't got to get them to see them. They've got these problems with people who are home from university trying to study, and people who are trying to work, trying to send files up and down and everything else, and they just can't do it because the system's overloaded. And so we've also got in there, it's not just about the problem. We've also got a big section about how you can claim an improvement to your line, how you can get upgraded to fiber, like Mikey here, and get off the copper that I am struggling on. When I do something like this, I have to make sure if my daughter's home from school, there's no Disney, there's no Netflix, there's nothing else going on the home internet, because otherwise we've got real problems. And I love Clippy there. Clippy is an invention of Adam Walker, who designed this site, who works for us in Cardiff, and he's absolutely brilliant. So well done, Clippy. Well done, Adam. So it's all going live tomorrow, and we will be also doing a piece in the paper tomorrow, so keep an eye out for it. And if you have a look at the Reboot website when it goes live tomorrow, you will find out how you too can reboot your internet connection and keep at the forefront of the internet revolution, which would be handy. Now, Joyce says, beep, beep, beeps, beep, beep, beeps, beeps. Hold on, trying something. Okay. But we had loads of fun, Mikey, with the broadband sounds and the dial-up things. And then you've got some experience of home broadband connections.
A little bit, yeah.
Asymmetric digital subscriber lines.
Indeed. So, like, before I turned to journalism, in a moment of desperation, I worked for a fairly well-known internet company that used to be independent and was bought by BT about 10 years ago. And my job to start with, I was doing tech support, but eventually I was doing what they called provisioning, which was when we got a new subscriber, I would talk to BT Openreach and get the guy, to simplify it, get the guy to put the little widget in the exchange that would turn broadband on for your phone line. One of the things I found really interesting about the piece that's going live tomorrow is that the ADSL, asymmetric digital subscriber lines, have the asymmetric bit about that is that they're much faster down than they are up, which wasn't so much of a problem at the time. This would have been sort of mid-2000s.
Yeah, because we only used the internet to look at stuff, didn't we?
Exactly.
It was a big encyclopedia, and we went, how do we find out such? We'll ask Jeeves. We'll ask Jeeves. He'll know what to do.
Unless you were some kind of nerd that played video games with other people, all you needed the upstream for was to tell the internet what you wanted. And that didn't require a big speed. So the upstream was something like, I think it was 128K when I was still doing it. The maximum upstream you could have was that, even when you could have sort of 2 meg down.
Yeah, mine's 1 up at the moment. So I've got 4 down and 1 up, which is probably trying to send data up and down the pipe is fine. But I noticed during lockdown, when I was Zooming my students at City University, my journalism students, when I was doing things like this, I was having real problems. The techie backstage would confirm it, that couldn't get connections, things were dropping off, didn't know what the hell was going on. And it was fundamentally, it was the problem with my connection, and it's the upload speed, because I'm creating content for the internet. Broadcast takes a huge amount of bandwidth. I had no idea. Joanne says, have you heard of the quantum internet? Oh, don't get me doing another investigation. I'm gonna have to do another chapter. The writing cardigan's and a ball on the other side of the room over here, Joanne. I don't want to put it back on again. Really upset me wearing the writing cardigan. It's always a sign of great pain in my
especially in this weather. It's been really hot. You don't want to wear a cardigan.
Yeah, but when you're writing a big thing, when you're writing a book, or when you're writing a huge investigation, this one's about 15,000 words, you have to sit there and go for hours, and I find it very painful and cold. So I have a writing cardigan. So anyway, it goes live tomorrow. There's a feature in the paper. Keep an eye out, buy it, read it, and you can figure out how you too can reboot your own internet connection. So it's a good consumer investigation that I love. So if you don't, I'm going to be cross with you. Now, there's some fabulous noises in it, and there are some very good GIFs, which we've had lots of fun playing with. Now, we do have some good news for you, because it's not all doom and gloom, even though in the middle of a pandemic. And here it is. Now, last week, there was a report telling us we don't know enough about what we're eating. So this week, the Mirror is reporting how you can meet and shake hands with your food, or trotters. There's a pub landlord called Pete Tiley who keeps 5 Gloucester old spots at his pub in, would you believe it, a village called Ham in Gloucestershire. And he keeps them for the ham, egg and chips that are on his menu. I assume he gets the eggs and chips from somewhere else. He's inviting customers to meet these porkers, say hi, scratch their backs, and size up exactly which bit of hock they want to smear the mustard on. Now, Mikey, is this the sort of thing that you would like to do before a nice pub lunch of bangers and mash?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Are you squeamish?
Yeah,
Can't you bear the fact it was a pig one?
I don't know. I do. I love bacon, and I'd like to keep liking bacon. But as soon as you put a face on it,
yeah, but it's not going to sit and have a conversation with you about the state of the world. It's a pig. I mean, they're very intelligent. There's an argument that pigs, out of all animals, shouldn't be eaten, but bacon tastes good.
It's so tasty. So very tasty. No, I'm not sure I'd choose to do this. I've been to a restaurant once where, you know, they say, "Oh yeah, we use those cows," and pointed out the window, and I didn't really like it. And this seems a lot more personal than that.
There was a scene, wasn't there, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in the restaurant at the end of the universe, where the cow comes up to the table and invites Ford Prefect and his mates to and Arthur Dent and that to actually choose which bit of him they want to eat, and he gets quite hurt when Arthur refuses to do so because I've been bred for this. What's your problem?
I am very much Arthur Dent in that situation. I'm afraid.
I'm a bit more Ford Prefect. I was like, right, I'll have that leg there, chop it off. Thank you very much for your help. that would be that. I'd be very keen on taking children to see it though, because I think knowing where your food comes from, and also knowing that it is good food, it's happy food, it's had a nice life, is important, as opposed to buying something off a shelf in the supermarket. You can pretend it wasn't once an animal and didn't have a face, but if you knew how it was slaughtered and looked after, you might think differently about it. So I'd rather eat food that I knew where it came from. If you see what I mean. I'm happy to see its face. If it's got a happy face, if it's smiling, I'll eat it.
I'm fine with sort of evidence of where it comes from. Maybe a certificate. That'd be fine. I just don't want to look it in the eye. Yeah.
Guilty conscience, my guys. And perhaps we should reboot our food choices as well. Then we could reboot broadband, reboot bacon, reboot Britain. There you go. There's a slogan for the Labour Party's re-election campaign right there. Thank you for joining me, Mikey. Thank you, everyone, for taking part. Reboot.mirror.co.uk will be live tomorrow. There'll be another piece of the paper about it. So keep having a look at the Mirror's social channels. You will see stuff about it today and tomorrow. And, you know, bookmark it, because you are going to need to use the consumer advice in there to improve your own internet connection. So thanks, everyone, for taking part. And we will see you again next Monday at 9 a.m. for another edition of the News Agenda. Bye-bye.